Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this evening I'm delighted to be joined by Kev McCluskey for another match day. Kev, we have done quite a lot. That partnership has been utilised significantly over the last 4 years or so for the match day. We've had ups, we've had downs, and tonight we've got Dundee at Celtic Park. The teams have been announced, and of course Celtic are hoping to leapfrog Rangers tonight. It can be done. It can be done, Kev. We will talk about any of the changes, the lineup in its entirety, where it leaves those on the bench, and of course, we'll have a wee look at our opponents as well. Starting 11, for anyone who has not yet seen it, is Joe Hart in goals with Alistair Johnston at right back. I don't know if he'll be masked up. I've seen the pictures of him at Lennoxtown, Kev. He had his mask back on. His wee Batman number.
Probably will be. So I had that one at the weekend. Didn't really do his performance any favours right enough, but hey ho.
It got better when he demasked. Did you notice that? Took it off, started playing better. Left back is Greg Taylor. Everybody keeps saying to me when I list my predicted 11, because I go old school and I count it 1, 2, 3, Hart, Johnson, Taylor, and people think I'm playing Taylor at left centre back. It's not that at all. It's just old school. Number 3 was always left back, Kev, when I played football. Carter Vickers and Scales, central defence. Brilliant to see CCV back. In the midfield, Tomoki Iwata, Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly. And the forward 3 are Yang, Maeda and Ida. The bench is made up of Scott Bain, Lewis Palmer, Kyogo Furuhashi. We have Nicholas Kuhn, Bernardo, Vata, Kelly, Ralston, Welsh. No O. Did you notice? No O. Obviously, Nawrocki is injured. No James Forrest either. What do you make of the starting 11, first of all, Kev?
Well, first of all, actually, did I notice no O? No, I didn't. I've looked at the team.
Good job.
I've written it down on a sheet of paper in front of me, and I'm sitting looking at it, and I hadn't even noticed that O wasn't there. I did notice that Vata was back in the bench, though. I think he's missed the last few. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting development, because there was a couple of weeks ago he missed can't remember which game it was now, but there was a B team game on at the same time, and he wasn't included in the team they need either. Mm-hmm. It might even just have been Kilmarnock last weekend. Anyway, it's good to see him back. Don't know what it means for O. I'm not going to read anything into that, to be fair, but good to see that Vata's back in the bench. And to actually answer your question, what do I make of the team? Listen, it's probably the strongest team we've got again, isn't it, that he's put out there? It's great to see CCV's back in there. He's a massive miss when he's not in the team. He's that steady and influence at the back. So it's great to see him there. Disappointing for Nawrocki that he's out with injury again. But you know, if it's a toss-up between who do you want, CCV or Nawrocki, it's CCV every time. So I think he strengthens the backline being there. Really happy to see that Iwata's kept his place, which this must be the first time under Rodgers that he's made 2 starts in a row, I think. So great to see him there, because I think he brings that balance and the defensive-minded play that we need at times that we've been lacking in games. It's good to see him in. Great to see Pirlo behind me as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect timing there, mate. Nice to have you on board. You can
just nonchalantly if you want.
Walking along there, sense. As he goes. And then, up front, I mean, Ida has to start. He's scored 2 goals at the weekend. He changed that game for us. It's probably, not too strong a point to say he won us that game by the way that he's come on and played. 2 massive goals. And Yang, I think, actually made a bit of an impact as well. So it's a strong team. One at the start of the game, you've got to be confident we'll go in and win it. I know that we've played really poorly for about the last month. But before a game, you've just got to be confident, haven't you, that we can go and do it. Otherwise, there's no point.
You've got to be confident, and you've got to be confident in your squad, Kev. You know, Brendan Rodgers was talking about that very fact when he was explaining why Kyogo was taken off at half-time. And he's done that quite a lot this season. I would need to have a look for the exact stat, but who can a player at half-time is definitely a Brendan Rodgers MO this season. And he does it without real, he does it without thinking it might upset anybody. You know, he just thought this wasn't Kyogo's game. We have to bring Ida on, and he was proven right.
Yeah, it was one of the things that we always spoke about last season with Ange was, would you make a change at half time? And maybe we'd sit here and discuss possible changes that we would make, but you always knew at your back of the mind, and was never going to do it. You know, he would wait until later in the game. You know, for all over the last wee while, and there's been criticism thrown at Rodgers, and a lot of it rightly so, to be fair, how he's been playing. One thing he has been consistently good at is making those early changes when he's seeing that certain players definitely not working. Yang's been on the receiving end of it at Third Park the first time around. He was having a pretty tough encounter against, was it Spencer? And he hooked him at halftime, I think. He's done it with a few other players. And generally, the guy that's come on has made a bit of an impact. And it definitely worked at the weekend. He does come on, and watching the first half, every single ball that Taylor put into the box was intended for Ida. By the look of it, it was a high ball played in, and Kyogo was winning none. First ball he puts in the second half, Ida's up between the two defenders, brilliant header, and that's the goal that brings us right back into it and changed the complexion of the whole game.
No, it did. It was a brilliant pass. It really was. The through ball was fantastic from Greg Taylor. And what I liked about the fullbacks, Kev, I don't think either of the two of them had a particularly good game. First half, you mentioned Johnson. Johnson was murder in the first half, and masked and demasked. He didn't play that well. And I think that what I like about that is the fact that they stepped up. They stepped up despite the fact they weren't having the best of afternoons. They came through it, and I think both of them ended up with the assist. You know, Johnston overlapping Yang, great wee move, and he pings that ball in that you would expect Kyogo to relish. You know, the low hard ball front post. Ida was able to get a wee bit of space and great finish. And I think Greg Taylor was the same. You know, he was poor. Most of the team were, but he played through it in game, and he you know, by the end of the game, you're forgetting that he started off pretty ropey. So that shows character. It shows the mentality, and I think that there's enough experience. You know, you don't have to be 28, 29-year-old to be regarded as like a senior pro. I think if you've been at the club 2 or 3 seasons and all you've known is success, I'm thinking of Carter Vickers here, by the way, then when you're in the team, you notice that there's that leadership. There's a real positive influence. And I don't know if you noticed this, Kev, at the weekend, but I had mentioned about, I remember reading a passage in Teddy Sheringham's autobiography a few years back. He was speaking about going off form at Nottingham Forest, and Brian Clough dropped him. But he made sure he sat next to him in the dugout, whoever they were playing. And he basically just says to Teddy Sheringham, just listen to me all the way through the game. And what he got in that 90 minutes was more than he ever could get on the training pitch. He basically realised what he should have been doing, because Clough was shouting at the centre forward, whoever it may have been, obviously for a lack of movement, etc. And Sheringham spoke about sometimes just watching the game with that influential voice. And I noticed at the weekend that Carter Vickers was doing it with Palmer. He was on the sidelines. He was talking Palmer through the passages of the game. So, you know, for Carter Vickers, his age and the fact that, you know, in terms of his experience at Celtic, 2.5 seasons now, I still regard him as a senior pro now, even though he's not that 28, 29. I don't think the word senior has to be about the player's age. It could be about the fact that, you know, they've maybe overseen. How many players has Carter Vickers overseen since he came to Celtic? Quite a few. You know, 11 this season. And then if you go into last year, probably 20 new players have come in since Carter Vickers entered the building. So he is senior in terms of his service to Celtic than all of the guys in the dressing room. And I think that showed it at the weekend when he was talking Palmer through the game. He's going to be massively important tonight and for the rest of the season, Kev.
Yeah, so when you talk about somebody like CCV, it's about his personality as well. That's what makes him a senior pro at the club. It's you know, you don't have to be there for 5, 10 years to be a senior. You don't have to have played 200-300 games at a club to be considered that senior experienced player. It's just about what you bring, is your all-round personality and your abilities, and what you do off the pitch as much as what you do on it. He's such a calming influence when he's there, that you notice it when he's not. So I hadn't really actually noticed what he was doing with Palmer at the weekend, but it doesn't surprise me that he's the type that would do that, because he seems like he's quite a quiet kind of guy by the looks of him. He's a kind of within himself almost. He's got that demeanour where he just doesn't but at the same time, probably one of those guys, quiet man, but when he speaks you listen, because what he's got to say is worthwhile. So it's great that he's doing that and he's talking Palmer through it, and he needs that from somebody, Palmer. because you can see that he's a player with ability, but he goes into the park sometimes and you get the impression he doesn't know what he's doing. It's the first time he's set foot on a football pitch. But if he's got a defender actually sitting next to him on the sideline saying, this boy's weak, when you get the ball, if you run him on the inside or take him outside, you'll get past him. And he's spotting those deficiencies and passing them on. So it's a great thing to have. And yeah, that's the kind of thing that makes him a leader. And, you know, future captain if ever Callum isn't around to play.
Well, see, when you look around that dressing room, I think one of the biggest things, not just his performances, but Joe Hart's leadership qualities and his influence within the dressing room. And if you listen to any of the players, any of his teammates, they talk about that. And that's what you're losing when Joe Hart leaves at the end of this season. But when you look around that dressing room, you think about the leaders. Joe Hart's a big leader. Carter Vickers, for me, in defence, is a leader. Lesser, I would say, Greg Taylor, but he's still got some qualities of that leadership. Yeah, he moans and moans constantly, but sometimes the players, particularly the new guys coming in, need a wee bit of that flea in the ear, if you like. You move into the midfield, I think Callum McGregor, born leader. Matt O'Reilly, one of the guys, leads by example rather than shouting and screaming at his teammates. And then you go up top, and I thought, you know, talismanic Kyogo, again, leading by example. He's found himself on the bench tonight. But you look for a team to have a number of potential captains on the park. And I think if you've got goalkeeper, centre-half, centre mid, potentially even centre forward, there's your backbone. Unfortunately for us, Kyogo's form's not been that great this season. And you've got to play players on form. And I think that when you look at that lineup, you know, the reintroduction of Yang and Ida into the starting 11, Tumoke Awata keeping his jersey, Carter Vickers was always going to come back when he was fit. But it is refreshing to know that if you're going to do the business, you'll be in the team. I think the only one that might feel a wee bit aggrieved would be Palmer, because when he came on, he done well. He made a difference. But he's on the bench, and that's down to Maeda. It's dividing opinion in the comments because I don't think it was Maeda's best game. We all know the qualities that he's got, Kev. What do you make of his performance at the weekend? Probably should have scored a couple of goals.
I thought he was poor at the weekend. I thought he was really poor. It's a criticism you could probably label at about 7 or 8 of the team that started the game, though. So he wasn't alone in being poor. And yeah, he missed a couple of really good chances. There's a couple of ones he's got in at the back post. He's done well to be there. You know, you always say that about a striker in a way. It's you've got to be there to miss the chance. So fair play in being there in the first place. But we can't afford to be missing the chances that he was missing in the game the way we've been playing. So you need somebody that's a wee bit more reliable in front of goal there. But yeah, his general play all round was poor. Yeah, I don't think he was really able to take on his man and beat him, and his final ball was lacking again. And I think that's been a real frustration of Maeda over the last few weeks. He's really been off the boil. And he's that type of player that he's all industry. So if that drops, you notice it. And then you notice his lack of productivity at times. So, yeah, thought he was poor. Would I have had Palma in front of him, though, is also one of those ones where you could throw the two names up and whatever one lands closest to the team sheet, you'll play. Because as good as Palma was when he came on, maybe it's because what you've pointed out, he had CCV in his ear all the time telling him what to do when he does come on. Because he's another one that in games that he started recently, he's not really been able to have the impact that we want him to have. If you just think back to Kilmarnock last weekend, there was quite a few times he was getting simple passes and he was miscontrolling it and letting the ball slide out. He couldn't take his man on and beat him. So Palma you would have in the team if you could be guaranteed you would get peak Palma, but you can't get that at the moment. You're not guaranteed that. So it's a difficult choice which one he goes for. I actually might have been tempted to move Kuhn to the left and give him a chance there, because a lot of the highlight videos that we saw of him coming in was he was playing on the left and he was causing problems. So maybe that's an option we could have looked at. But listen, when Maeda gets his hat-trick today and we romp this 7-0 win that will hopefully put us back on top of the table, then I'll be quite happy.
As we often do, Kevin, leading into the game, we've been talking about the potential for a change in formation and shape. Looking at that starting 11, that's not happening tonight, is it? I mean, we're just doing the usual 4-3-3. But when you're looking at the reintroduction to the side of Tomoki Iwata, there's a player that we've spoken about for weeks and weeks on end. Bit of an Acsom favourite. Well, he is with me anyway, Kev. And I think that's kind of been like a vacant. That jersey's been up for grabs all season, right? So there's no doubt in my mind that the best player we've got, actually, the best player we've got isn't in the side at the moment, and that's Ryo Hatate. And I said it all last season. I think that had he not had that injury near the kind of tail end of the season, he could well have been player of the year. He would have been getting all the gongs. He was in great form. And then at the beginning of this campaign, I'm looking at the squads when Brendan Rodgers came in, and there were 3 players I identified that I was looking forward to seeing Brendan working with. The first one was Matt O'Reilly, who has gone on leaps and bounds. People might mention that he's gone off the boil a wee bit. I think that's down to fatigue. And then you've got Lil Abada. Everybody knows what's happened with Lil Abada. So that is not to be, and it looks as though his career will move on elsewhere. And there's obviously talk of him going to the MLS. And then the third player was, of course, Ryo Hatate. But he's been so unlucky with injuries this season. So, you look at the guys that have been in that position in place of him. David Turnbull, he's away. You've got Odin Holm. I did see him in the training pictures at Lennoxtown this morning. So he's obviously
still alive, actually. I've not seen him for long enough.
I know, he's disappeared. And he's been mentioned once that I recall in the press conferences when Brendan's not talking about documentaries that he recommends to his teammates. And it was due to the fact that apparently he'd had some illness and he had been out because of that. So I don't know what the illness was, how serious it was, but he's certainly back in training. And then, of course, you've got Bernardo, who was almost a specialist who was coming in for the Champions League games. And then he had that good run of form. He's on the bench tonight. But the one guy that just never seemed to get a run through bad luck, injury, and all of the guys being ahead of him was indeed Iwata. And people were saying to me, he's getting better every single week he's left out. He's one of these situations where it becomes better in your head than he actually is. And you start doubting yourself, because I was calling for him to get a run of games. He played really well, I thought, against Motherwell. And it's good to see him still in the side tonight.
Yes, it is. He was getting, that was the Bobo Balde kind of, not treatment, what's the word I'm thinking of here. But I remember when he was out the team for about a year and he got better in everyone's head. And then Strachan brought him back in and we won away from home at Tannadice, and it was our first away win for quite a while. And so obviously that just helped to grow the myth that Balde had become a better player when he wasn't in the team.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Iwata was beginning to go down that route because we hadn't seen him for long enough. And, it probably doesn't help that we do shows like this and we're looking at that team going, well, he's the one player that's never got in. And remember that performance against Rangers in the 3-2 game and how he solidified the midfield, how he did this, and we're talking him up week after week. But it's great that he's actually in and he's proven us right, which is a rare thing also, because he does bring something to that midfield. Like, the way that we're set up now, with this 4-3-3, the way that Brendan wants us to play it, we need it to be, there's a defined number 6 role. It's not last season when McGregor could play there and he could be deep line playmaker. This is a number 6, a more defensive minded player. McGregor's not that player. Iwata is. And when he comes back in, he frees Callum up so much and he allows O'Reilly to play as well. So it's been great to see him back in, and he does make a big difference, in my opinion, to the team. And again, hopefully he goes and proves me right tonight. But yeah, the one that we absolutely missed the most is Ryo. I mean, if we could have those 4 fit for the season, Iwata, McGregor, O'Reilly and Hatate, that gives you really good options. So the sooner he can come back, the better. I'm not sure what the timeline is on him coming back, but if we could get him back for at least the run-in, say the games after the split, that could be decisive in where this title ends up.
Yeah, I think initially there was a timeline which was the middle of March, but I think it's getting pushed closer to the end of March. Of course, you've got one eye on that game against Rangers at Ibrox. You're hoping that you've got everybody available for that match, but not just available, Kev. You want them to have kind of been bedded back into the side, back up to full match sharpness. You don't want to just throw them right into the battle, the heat of the battle. Jungle Lion in nice and early tonight.
Especially Ryo, because that's where he's struggled in games before when he's not been fully fit.
Yeah,
so don't rush him back.
No,
but get him in for those final 5 and who knows.
Absolutely. Jesus, the board just can't help themselves, putting the boot into the Celtic supporters at every chance. Pity they never released a statement about the treatment of supporters outside Motherwell. So if we go to the 12:30 bulletin earlier today, we were talking about the treatment of Celtic fans outside Fir Park and some of the footage that had been released from the North Curve on their social media pages. And I mean, there was footage of a lad who was face down on the tarmac, and the way that they were applying pressure and weight onto his body, Kev, looked extremely dangerous, particularly with regards to what Scottish police are going through right now. With the public inquiry into Sheku Bayou's death, auto asphyxiation, and the way and the methods in which you are able to restrain individuals, if indeed they needed restraining at all. But obviously it was captured and shared on the socials, and we had a discussion about that at 12:30 today. John, the two Paddies, and myself. John on the social said that it was Paul, John, and the two Paddies. He said it sounded like a Republican band. If you want to book us, let us know. And of course, Jungle Lion has given us an update, because since then there's been a statement that's been sent out. Now, I think it was sent out to the members of the North Curve, which is the Green Brigade, who are the group of fans who have been banned for a spell this season. And it pulled them up for particular banners at the Kilmarnock game in relation to Palestine. And also it spoke about a number of fans trying to get into Fir Park and Pittodrie without tickets. From speaking to fans who were at both of those games in question, I understand it wasn't exclusively any group who were trying to access the stadium without tickets, Kev. But obviously it looks as though they're getting the blame for it. And I take what Jungle Lion says. I mean, where is the condemnation of the treatment of our fans? You want a bit of that. And also, when things are starting to pick up again and the board start fighting the fans, it's not great, is it? It's not great timing.
Really not. Thinking, if you look at it from not from the board's perspective, if you look at what the board do, it just highlights again how out of tune they are with the support, with the fan base. I mean, we are the supporters of the football club. We go to the games, the global we on that one, go to the games, we give our money, we give our support. It's week in, week out. The least you expect is for the club to support you back or back you up in these instances. Now, okay, it's been 7 years that I moved out here, but I can go back that far then to when I used to go to the games week in, week out, and you'd get penned in at certain grounds when you were going in. You'd be herded in, you'd be treated like cattle, basically, going into the grounds. And then when I see the footage of what Declan's shared in the WhatsApp group and other things that you've seen on social media from what happened at the weekend, it's sickening and sad to think that it still happens now, almost a decade later. You're still treated exactly the same. It's not even second-class citizens. You're worse than that to them, the way that you're treated by the police on some occasions at some grounds. And if I'm right to say it, on Sunday, Celtic fans were told to be at the ground 20 minutes early because there's such a large volume expected there. And that's so that the police can, in theory, safely get you through the cordons and into the ground, but yet you're still being detained outside the ground and hemmed in and penned in. And the footage of the young boy, you saying, getting kind of thrown to the ground and arm twisted behind his back, foot on his back. I don't know, it's like GBH, like actual bodily harm in that one, whatever it is. If it's not the police doing it, if it's someone else doing it to that guy, it's an assault, it's a criminal offence. So just because you've got a uniform on, I don't think changes that. So that's all, things that are just systemically wrong, I think, with how football fans in general, but Celtic fans in particular, are treated in Scotland. And yeah, I would expect that the club sees what we can see and speaks out about it. Otherwise, at some point along the line, you give up on them. You give up on the board. And of course, you're going to get reactions from the fans, and there's going to be banners against the board at games, because they've kind of encouraged that reaction by not supporting their lifeblood. Without the fans, there is no club. Support the fans, give them the backing. don't blindly do it. But when you can clearly see that your guys have been assaulted on the way to a football match, stand up, speak up about that.
Oh, definitely. Kev, I'm with you on that, 100%. David Boyle, you're in on the YouTube. Players rewarded. That's the ones who deserved to retain their jerseys in the starting 11 now. Let's get stuck in and finally show why we are champions. Yes, David, I'm all for that tonight. Let's go out there and just show them the bit of style and that mentality, the winning mentality that you build up through success and through winning trophies. Ewan Boy Martin, hail troops from a wet Celtic Park. A big hail to Ewan, who shared news earlier on that he has become a grandfather. Doesn't look old enough. There he is.
Congratulations, Ewan.
Congratulations to the big fella. And Patrick Heaney, time to turn the form around and bring a strong end to a very mixed season. Patrick, yeah, it could mask a million deficiencies, that. The holy goalie saying hello to David Weir in that picture. Happy with the lineup in general. Would have put Kyogo in for Maida. We were talking about that, giving Kyogo some opportunity to play on the wing, where the onus isn't on him scoring goals, but get him involved in the game and get back into the rhythm of having the ball and creating and being a creator of goals. Perhaps playing Maida instead of Kyogo, says love it, is a shocker for him as well. And we've also got Jamie Cameron. Good to see Tomoki starting. Absolutely agree with that. Home support, get behind the team like the away support does. All about the point, support the players. Carter Vickers playing gives us a solid defence. Cannot argue with that. Let's have a look at the Dundee team then. Carson, Shaughnessy, McGee, Main, Bakayoko, Lamy, McCowan, Robertson, Boateng, Portalese, and Beck. That wee guy that we were kind of sniffing about is playing for Dundee tonight as well. And that's another reason that I don't think Maida did too well against Beck last time round, Kev. And, sometimes players have just got that wee hex on a particular opponent.
Yeah. I was thinking back to that last game. I think it was myself, you, and Jerry covered it. And Beck was like the standout player, pretty much for let's say, until Mikey Johnson came on and got his 2 goals. But Beck was probably the man of the match in that game. He nullified Maeda, was matching him for pace. He was positionally sound and was a threat going forward. He looks a decent player. So yeah, it is another one actually that would actually influence my decision to not play Maeda, because the last time he didn't seem to get the better of this lad. But will we give him the benefit of the doubt? It's Celtic Park. It's a bigger pitch. It's wider. There's more space, hopefully, for Maeda to get in behind. We'll see. But at least there's options on the bench if it's not working. There is Kyogo. It would be interesting to see him playing out wide, to see if that kind of release of the goal-scoring pressure on him helps his performance. There is Vata, there is Kuhn, there's options there if it's not quite working with Maeda.
There are. There's loads of options, and that's good to see as well, because there has been occasions this season where the bench has been weak. David, don't see Rangers dropping points tonight. Well, David, I'll be keeping one eye on that. I think most of us will be. And forever and ever Celtic. Congratulations, Ewan Boy, Grandad, and Martin. There he is. We go through these things together as an Acsom community. I love it. And Craig McGeechan, I hope I got your name right, Craig. Middle to front, thrive on the confidence CCV brings to his team. You saw that against Motherwell. If the engine room controls the game and quits the basketball nonsense, we win comfortably. Yeah. And finally, what about this? What about a wee bit of this from Simon Fideni? Bit of rip-roaring, free-scoring, never boring. Glasgow Celtic would be grand. I need to say asterisk, copyright Tony Haggerty, just in case Tony files a wee royalty request for that one. But yeah, that was Tony's favourite saying for a couple of years. And let's hope we get a wee bit more of that. We've not seen a great deal of it since Brendan came back. There's been so many problems, injury problems, issues with recruitment, the situation with Abada. There's been so many issues to deal with, Kev. And then another issue was obviously dug up last week because of Brendan's choice of words. It's just one thing after another. It'd be great to get the shackles off and see a performance this evening. And if we do get a performance, Kev, what's the score going to be? What's your prediction?
Well, if we get a performance, and why not? Let's think, why not? We've got it in us to win this game 3-0.
I like that. Nice and confident. Ida hat-trick?
No, Maida's getting the hat-trick, remember.
Okay, right. Whoever gets it, I'm fine with that. What is your prediction? Let us know in the comment section. We are just about at kick-off time. So let's go to Celtic Park, where Celtic will be playing host to Dundee, and hopefully by the end of the 90 or 95 or 98 minutes, whatever it may be, Celtic will be sitting pretty once again on the top of the league. Hey, I'll tell you what, one day is a long time in Scottish football, Kev. It can happen. Let's be positive. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the notifications bell. Subscribe to the channel. Do all the good stuff, and we'll see you at half time. Thanks for getting involved. And thank you to Kevin McCluskey for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.